Thank you guys, and hopefully you enjoyed a little bit of Natalia Lafourcade there, Hasta la Raíz. And yeah, appreciate also reading through people's responses to the icebreaker. It sounds like we have some geographic representation here today joining us, and I'll just say that something I'm grateful for was waking up and feeling just the chilly like fall weather and a little bit of rain. And I have my tea, my cup of tea here. I'm very much in the fall vibes right now, so feeling really grateful for the change of seasons. I see here grateful for the privilege and access of fresh water, the indomitable spirit and like-minded folks like those here. I love that. Hi, Fabi. I see I'm grateful for my family's health, always important. The voice is standing for peace, equality, and oneness. Grateful for family. Beautiful. Well, thank you all for joining so much. Just for those of you who just joined, just to reiterate, my name is Irene Burga. I'm the Climate Justice and Clean Air Program Director here at GreenLatinos. And we have an awesome program for you here today, a really exciting packed agenda. So Cumbia, if you can go to the next slide. It's the last Encuentro of the year for this program, which is exciting. We've accomplished a lot with the partners and the people here, the folks represented here today. We have some new resources and some new programs to kind of discuss and talk about, and hopefully an opportunity to bring those further into our community and to help bolster all of the work that we do. And so we'll be starting off talking about EPA Solar for All program. We have a speaker here today to speak also on the American Climate Corps program that was announced a few weeks ago. And then we have an update on the Latino Climate Justice Framework, which for those of you involved in any of the Latino climate justice work over the last couple of years with GreenLatinos or any of our partners, has been an incredible sort of evolution of launching it in 2022 for Hispanic Heritage Month, and now taking it to a point of greater maturity. Now we have a really exciting update process coming, so we have a speaker speaking on that. I'll give a short update also on some EPA rules that my program has been deeply engaged on, and some opportunities for action and engagement there. And then we'll leave some time for member updates and announcements. Next slide. And so now, to get us started first, we have our first speaker, and it's Paula Garcia. She's Senior Energy Analyst and Energy Justice Lead for the Union of Concerned Scientists, and she also happens to be one of our co-chairs for the Climate Justice and Clean Air Colectivos. So I'll pass it over to Paula to speak more on the EPA Solar for All program.
Gracias, Irene. Can you hear me?
Yes, perfect.
Perfect. All right. So yes, great to be with you all. Paula Garcia, she, her, ella pronounced, and I will be sharing like an overview of a program from the EPA that is called Solar for All. And the idea is just to share that this is happening, what in general it covers, and see if there is like an interest for collaboration. So if you could go to the next slide. Perfect. So I was saying Solar for All. Next slide, please. So this is part of the Greenhouse Reduction Fund competition, which have like 3 key areas of work. This is a total of, I think, $27. And it's divided in the... Uh-oh. You're here? You hear me?
I think we're good. Yes. Just
okay. Perfect. Yeah. So there is the National Clean Investment Fund, there is the Clean Communities Investment Accelerator, and the Solar for All program, which is $7 billion. And the idea is to support state, territories, tribal and municipal governments and non-profits to be able to expand access to solar for low-income and disadvantaged communities. So if you go to the next slide, next slide. And basically, so there is different layers of why this program is important. One of those is to try to alleviate the energy burden that many households face, and the energy burden is from the income of a household, the percentage that needs to be spent to cover energy costs. And for low-income communities is usually 3 times higher than what an average American has to pay for energy from their income. So the program at this point, as I say, at this moment, there are, let's see, states and territories and those interested needed to send their application to get funding from the EPA. That first step already happened. The deadline initially was September 26. It was extended. I think that the deadline was October 12th this year. So those that wanted to get funding already sent their applications, and the response from the EPA is expected to happen between March and April, and some negotiation happening between those that are applying and those and the EPA. And then by July, the idea is that we all know those that receive the awards. As I say, $7 billion. They're thinking, the EPA is thinking to have up to 60 awards, and the ranges go between 25 million and 400 million that need to be executed over a period of 5 years. If you go to the next slide. This is how the different different segments where those that are applying for funding could see themselves. So the small program is between 25 million and $100 million. The medium programs go from 100 million and $200 million, and then the larger programs go from 200 million to $400 million. And pretty much like what determines what program states, mostly are states the ones that are applying for this funding. What defines what segment they can apply to is the total population of disadvantaged census tracts in their geography. For example, in Massachusetts, the state is applying for $250 million because of this, because of the total population of disadvantaged census tracts in the state. And the idea is that EPA is going to be providing or granting up to 20 awards for that segment. And then the more money, the less entities are going to be getting that funding. If you go to the next slide. All right. And so this is, each state is going to have a different approach to how they are designing the program. And basically, there are different categories. One is for single family and small multifamily homes, and basically rooftop solar. And then there is another component that is looking at community share solar. So that's when they're looking at multifamily buildings, community solar projects in themselves. And for those, they are thinking about two different options, like one that it's like a lease kind of approach to that, and the other one is ownership. But then they are also having funding for other things, like for example, for workforce development, for outreach, for helping with the integration of that rooftop solar with storage. making sure that the homes have better energy efficiency conditions so that the homes need to use less electricity, and then thinking also in terms of resilience. And again, this is just one example. This is like the straw proposal from Massachusetts, but each state could have different kind of connotations. And if you go to the next slide, and this is where I wanted to check if anyone, where we wanted to check that the GreenLatinos Climate, Justice, and Cleaner Working Group wanted to check if any one of you is already engaging on this specific program, on the Solar for All program, if you're following, if it would be good to create a smaller GreenLatinos working group to share information in terms of timeline, the differences between the states on how they design their application, how to make sure that our communities are actually getting funding that benefit from this grant, what additional information would be helpful, and any other ideas or recommendations that you may have. So if you could maybe take out the slides to have a conversation, that would be great. Like, stop the presentation.
Great. Thank you, Paula. And I see that there was a question. I think now we can open it up. If any folks have questions, you can just either drop it in the chat or just unmute yourself. And I see that Ramon Perez had a question around, does anyone know if Ohio applied and approved solar for all? Jenny posted a resource from EPA that's published a list of those who have submitted letters of interest, and it looks like Ohio did. And Paula, do you have any other kind of recommendations around this, is to check out whether your state has applied, and also is there an opportunity to basically like advocate to your state for different communities, you know, different how the money can be utilized for different benefits for the community?
Okay, so the first question, Jenny, thank you so much for adding that link to the chat. That's the one that I am aware of, which is not the same as those that applied at the end, I believe.
Oh, right, it was a letter of interest instead of the full application.
Yeah. But I could try to track down what states at the end submitted their application, because I know that early in September, it looked like Florida was one of those states that was not going to apply for funding for a reason that many of us cannot understand. And Irene, could you follow? I don't remember what were your other.
I can, if you have any additional resources, Paula, I'll put them in the follow-up email.
Okay, perfect.
And now, so thank you, Ramon. And I see Joe Dumbia has their hand up.
Yes, thank you. I think that is a great idea to conform a group to handle this dimension. I think that the funds are coming down now for disadvantaged communities, and I think that there is a lot to be done on at the grassroots level. I'm in Northern Virginia, and I've been tapping on different of the organizations, grassroots organizations that work on affordable housing and work with low-income communities, and the connection to the solar dimension and all the benefits that our communities can get into, it is not totally resonating. So I do think that learning from experiences from other groups, from other areas, it would be incredibly beneficial. I think that it will help us sort of to advocate, to the government officials, to the state level on what to do things, and even to the state and the local levels on to be able to have money available for these kind of things. So like here for Northern Virginia, the challenge of how the disadvantaged communities are going to be benefited from, let's say, the installation of solar panels. When you have private owners that handle the low-income housing, what is the motivation that they have to start solar panels, for all these kind of things? So I think that as a suggestion, having a subgroup to be able to work on these elements, it would be an incredibly useful, at least from my perspective, from what I see that is happening in my neck of the woods. At a minimum, I would like to learn from others who already are advanced and are navigating this challenge that we are having here. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Joe. That's great. And I was just thinking the first thing that came to my mind is like starting with a basic frequent asked questions. The program itself could be one of those things that we could collectively work on. So if for those that are interested in a follow-up conversation, could you add your email to the chat? That sounds good, Irene?
Yes, that would be the easiest way. Add your email to the chat, and then Paola lets you and me figure out, like, yeah, just how to reconvene the group, the people that are interested.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Any other ideas or questions on the EPA Solar for All program?
So I see your question, Peggy, and so the idea is to sit together and share resources about the program around the specific questions that different people may have on how the program is designed, how they can benefit from the program, any cautious or like any caveat in terms of like how to make sure that this is not going to be pretty much like greenwashing, and that even though it's designed for low-income communities and disadvantaged communities, how to ensure that actually the funding reach those that is supposed to be benefiting. Ramon?
Yeah, thank you. Just real quickly, and thank you, Jenny, for sending the information regarding Ohio. The Ohio Air Quality Development Authority submitted an application and of intent. Do you or someone know how soon, Ohio folks would know, I would know if that, request was approved, when that will happen? Maybe you covered it, and if so, I apologize.
No worries, Ramon. What I know, what I've heard is that between March and April, EPA should be following up with those that applied, and that there could be some sort of negotiation, and around like June or July is when we're going to know who are those that are awarded officially. I would think that a way to know what's happening in Ohio is to contact your energy office. In Massachusetts, it is the Department of Energy Resources, the one that is leading the application process. So I would think that there should be an equivalent in Ohio, but I am not aware, unfortunately, the specifics on Ohio. Thank you, Ramon.
Okay, great. Thank you all. And I see that quite a few people have put their name in the chat. So we'll make sure to capture those email addresses and follow up with the interested people. And thank you, Paola. Thank you so much for that. Cumbia, if you can put the presentation back on, and we'll introduce our next speaker. Next slide. Yeah. One more. Okay. So our next speaker is Paul Prasendu. He is the Environmental Advisory Chairman at the City of New Rochelle, New York, and also another one of our co-chairs for the Climate Justice Colectivo. So Paul, take it away.
Thank you so much. And hello, everyone. Buenas tardes. Thank you all for joining us. This is a really, really important conversation because this initiative for the American Climate Corps is going to be invaluable towards providing economic justice opportunities for members of the Latino, Latinx community that are living in frontline communities of our climate crisis. So I don't know if you want to go to the next slide. So the American Climate Corps was presented by President Biden on September 20th of this year. And it's going to train approximately 20,000 younger people in skills that are in demand and are also in alignment with decarbonization goals and natural protection goal. This is an initiative that is really, really important because it's not only going to be making sure that we're providing job placement opportunities, but it's also making sure that we're able to promote the importance of our green economy. A lot of people have been talking about our green economy and green jobs, but there really hasn't been a commitment in terms of how to really institutionally create the ecosystem to make sure the training is there, the pre-apprenticeships are there, and most importantly, the support in terms of how important it is from the national government, the federal government, of this implementation. Want to go to the next slide? So I've identified 3 pillars of the purpose, what I like to call it, for this initiative and training. Obviously, the purpose of it is a training, as I mentioned before, of the 20,000 young Americans in the needed skills to support nature conservation efforts and decarbonization, and the creation of pathways for well-paying jobs in alignment with our growing green economy. This is very important because there is a shortage of people that are trained in clean tech, and people that could be heat pump installers, people that could be solar installers, and most importantly, people that have the, I guess you could say, the energy sciences to be effective facility managers or building custodians. A lot of building custodianship is a lot of firefighter responses. The boiler's not working, we got to fix that, and not really having people be professionally empowered of how they could do their own energy metric tracking, how they could be able to identify what the prospective return on investment is for certain renewable energy retrofits, how they could be able to implement sciences like building envelope, hot water, heating and cooling technologies. These are things that really had to be made available to people through an educational lens. And all of this is invaluable to making sure that we're able to have people that are on the ground in facilities in control be able to co-lead how they could be able to support decarbonization goals. Also, we don't have enough electricians. We don't have enough people that are technically skilled right now to meet some of the demands for job opportunities. So this right here will be invaluable towards making sure that we're providing jobs to members of our community. Most importantly, people that are in frontline communities. A lot of environmental justice communities have been places where economic opportunities have left, property values have lowered, and a lot of job opportunities are there for a lot of young people. So providing these trainings opportunities will be invaluable to people that are graduating from high school, looking for jobs, and are looking for some economic foundation as they identify what their goals are for the rest of their life, or what their goals are for a higher education. And this goes into the equity component. This is a really invaluable part for the Justice 40 initiative that the Biden-Harris administration has presented forward, where they're allocating 40% of all climate funding to help disproportionately environmental justice disadvantaged communities, communities that have been historically left behind, communities that have not, had a fair shot at the American dream. And I'm making a specific emphasis on Black and Brown communities because these are the communities that are in proximity to waste incineration plants, that are in proximity to energy generation centers, things that are impacting manufacturing facilities. These are the communities that have the supply chain burden in terms of compromising air quality, water quality, or other issues that kind of does impact the cost of impact of property value levels. It does make a burden on the cost of living as well too. And this is just an opportunity now to really make sure that that's the horn that we're going to be focused on in terms of making sure that these are the people that we're prioritizing for these economic opportunities and job training. And most important thing is partnerships. The American Climate Corps will make unprecedented investment in pre-apprenticeships and apprenticeships within the Department of Energy, Department of Labor, and streamline pathways for civil services to better coordinate recruitment across federal programs. This is really huge because not only are you going to be accessing workforce development opportunities at free to no charge, actually it will be no charge because of the private-public partnerships that are being created, but you also are going to be having opportunities to really get some I guess you could say, a lot of professional support and references to make sure that you are standing out as a participant within this Climate Corps program. So far, you have states that already are partnering with AmeriCorps to provide training opportunities with natural resources and federal forestry protection, which is huge for areas in the Pacific region, the West, where they're seeing a lot of issues such as forest fires. But overall, these partnerships are really important to make sure that we're placing people in the right ecosystems and they're being prepared with a multi-year vision of not only how they can access trainings now, but how they could really build, I guess you could say, a vision of what they would like to be in 5 to 10 years. I went to college for environmental studies. My first job was at ShopRite as a seafood clerk. I would have loved to go back in time and be able to have someone tell me that I could become a solar technician or an energy auditor for development projects, because it would be great for my overall mindset to be able to know that I could do these things as early as possible and not have to wait until after I get my undergraduate degree to start learning some of these technologies. So being able to streamline these resources is very invaluable, not only to really empower that next generation of sustainability leaders or people that will be green collar professionals, but also to make sure that we're having people in our communities that are invaluable assets to their communities. A lot of municipal governments now are including local hire clauses for development projects where they want to hire locally to make sure that it's promoting a more circular economy. So these are opportunities to make sure that people in the community are able to support these development projects and able to, most importantly, receive funding. So I guess we want to go to the next slide. So how to get involved. I really think it's really important that us as a GreenLatinos network do the best that we can to really promote these opportunities and let people know that this is happening. It's in the pipeline, and any way whatsoever that we could be able to make sure that members of the Latino community have a seat at the table in terms of where this is being rolled out and how it's being properly marketed and brought to members of the community. Right now, 5 states have been identified by the White House and have already launched programming for the Climate Corps: the state of California, state of Colorado, state of Maine, Michigan, and the state of Washington. And this is through private-public partnerships they created with AmeriCorps. There also are opportunities to engage leadership within your respective governor's office or your state's Department of Environmental Conservation or equivalent, to ask them what's happening, what are some plans that they're doing, and what are some ideas that that they plan to, I guess, bring into fruition to make sure that these opportunities are being brought out in a way that could really economically empower members of the community. Also, spreading the word is invaluable. Spreading the word to members of our community, our own social networks, people that are in school, people that are looking to go to college, your school district, for young minds as well too. A lot of these opportunities will be invaluable for young people to be able to access that first job without having mom and dad pay for their cell phone, or be able to be on that pathway of being part of a growing economy in terms of these jobs and the demands that's going to be happening. The frontline communities, the environmental justice communities, are going to be the communities that are being prioritized to place funding in for decarbonization and sustainability retrofit. So it's only natural that the people that are in those communities are being given an opportunity to be trained so that they can help do the sustainable development within the communities that they grew up and reside in right now. And I placed in the last bullet point that as members of GreenLatinos, it's up to us to ensure members of the community are made aware of these opportunities ahead of time to prepare needed accommodations for participation. You know, the Latino community, we are the largest minority group in the United States of America. And with that comes a little bit of the burden of leadership to make sure that we're addressing equitable representation for all people of color throughout the United States of America. This is making sure that we're supporting linguistic equity efforts, that we're making sure that there is a realistic strategic plan of how these ideas are being rolled out, making sure that these informational materials are not being just placed in colleges, but they're also being placed in churches and community centers, or places that people naturally do congregate to receive information, because this is an unprecedented opportunity to provide training opportunities, green job training opportunities, most importantly, but also do the support and infrastructure of the federal government with pre-apprenticeships and other things that can really ensure people their success as long as they're just willing to try. There's a saying that I was always told, by my aunt in Spanish, is like, palo que nace doblado, jamás su tronco endereza, and like a crooked tree never straightens its trunk. And this training opportunities will be really invaluable to young people so that they could be able to know what's happening, why this work is really, really important, and by how them just standing straight will make them an invaluable asset in time as they, as they really support an invaluable transformation that this federal government is going through. This American Climate Corps is an unprecedented opportunity and an invaluable opportunity at the same time for communities that have never really had any economic opportunities that's on demand of what's going to be happening in their communities. So it's really, really important that we do the best that we can to let people know about what's happening, and most importantly, do a little bit of advocacy within our government officials to make sure that this is being done the right way and reaching members of the community. So I think that's pretty much it. I hope I did well on time.
Did great.
Yes.
Thank you, Paul. Cumbia, can you stop sharing for a second, and then let's just leave it open for some questions for Paul's presentation on the American Climate Corps program. I see Irma wrote in the chat, I would also like to see adult education and outreach to show people pathways off the farm and into careers that are valuable and less demanding on the body. And this is very relevant for the Latino community, right? Where a lot of the jobs are very demanding on the body. And perhaps this could be an opportunity to invest in other pathways, green job pathways. I don't know, Paul, if you have any thoughts there.
Yeah, and it kind of can loop around with the circular economy question right there. It's, when communities become environmental justice communities, it creates a domino effect that impacts all sectors of society. Property value goes down, which impacts funding for school districts, which impacts funding for visual arts or for other workforce continuing education opportunities. So what you're providing, I guess you could say economic opportunities or supporting a more circular economy, it provides, I guess you could say, financial support for people to eject resources to the community, whether it's buying groceries, getting a haircut, or supporting local stores. And this is really the importance of it. It's just really about how could we support sustainability in communities, but doing it in a way that economically empowers the people in those communities to be the people that are leading the development of or the remediation in some cases of long standing issues.
Great. Thank you. Thank you so much, Paul. And if you have any additional kind of questions or comments, please drop them in the chat. There are some, I dropped in the link to the White House Climate Corps website, and we can follow up in our follow-up email for this Encuentro with additional resources as well. And now let's see, Cumbia, can you put the presentation back on? We'll move on to our next speaker. I have the privilege to introduce Jenny Hernandez. She's the Latino Climate Justice Program Manager here at GreenLatinos. She just joined, a month ago, but has hit the ground running, is doing incredible work on the Latino Climate Justice Program. So I'll let Jenny take it away. Go ahead.
Hi, everyone. Can you all hear me?
Yes.
Awesome. Okay. Thanks, Irene. And I just want to throw kind of a kudos to Paul to say that out of college, my first job was actually with AmeriCorps with an initiative called 100 Resilient Cities. And it was monumental in getting my career started. So definitely advocate for kind of sharing those opportunities because it placed me to all the places I am now. So thanks for spreading the word on that, Paul. Much appreciated. So as Irene said, I just joined GreenLatinos as the Latino Climate Justice Program Manager. So today, Cumbia, if you can go to the next slide, I'll be talking about our Latino Climate Justice Framework and the update process that's going to take place. And so I just want to give a little bit of background and context to the history of how this framework came to be, and then give you what is the framework, what's actually in it, the update process, and then how you can get involved. So yeah, let's dive in. So back when plans like the Green New Deal were coming out, GreenLatinos and other Latino-led organizations realized that a lot of these plans were kind of missing a lens in lack of representation of our Latino communities, and specifically the climate issues that they face. And so together with 22 core foundational partners, GreenLatinos set out a letter to sign on to say, hey, there needs to be a kind of Green New Deal for Latino communities to really exemplify the challenges and solutions that we face, and really to serve as an advocacy tool to help organizations and partners advocate for that role in our communities. And so this really launched the initiative that Irene did a really good job at starting with our Latino climate justice framework, in that it presented a unique and intersectional, diverse kind of reality to what our communities face in terms of climate change. And so in 2022, during Hispanic Heritage Month, we launched the Latino Climate Justice Framework, and it was decided that every 2 years it would get updated. And so in 2024, it is our update year. And so I'll talk about that a little bit more on the next slide, but really the LCJF vision and intent was for this framework to build upon the significant work of our frontline communities in terms of those in climate and environmental justice leaders, and really highlight the disproportionate impacts, and really to be included and elevate their work and to protect them as well. And so our intent with this framework is really to influence and galvanize federal and state and local efforts, especially as a lot of this Inflation Reduction Act funding is flowing down, as you heard from Paola, like great opportunities like Solar for All. And so really making sure that that money goes to our communities, because if it's not, then the money is not going to be effective at helping us meet some of our climate goals. And so this framework really provides a tool for our partners to engage in these efforts and advocate on behalf of Latino communities. Next slide, please. And so a little bit of an update since this was launched, and a couple of months ago for Hispanic Heritage Month this year, Irene and GreenLatinos team, along with our partners at Campeseros Sin Fronteras, did a really awesome video to help really humanize some of the problems that we talk about in our LCJF framework, and really show how it impacts our farm worker community. And so if you haven't checked that out, I really, really recommend you go and watch that video. And then kind of parallel to that effort, we did an op-ed, well, not we, but we partnered with Campeseros Sin Fronteras to do an op-ed, which was featured in the Arizona Republic. And again, really would recommend reading that piece. It's really powerful, and it just humanizes some of the things that we're talking about in LCJF, and really how this impacts our communities, specifically our Latino communities. Next slide, please. And so what exactly is inside the LCJF? So the LCJF has 3 chapters. The first one is the path to energy, environmental, and economic justice. And it has subsections that talk about transitioning to clean energy, including transportation, and getting us off fossil fuels. The second chapter is really about protecting our vulnerable communities from the climate crisis, from resiliency to water equity, to our farm worker protections in extreme heat, and to climate migration. And then the last chapter is about providing equitable access and representation in terms of language access, land, ocean, and heritage conservation, work in Puerto Rico, and immigration and citizenship. And so what's really unique unique about this framework that is kind of puts us aside from everyone else is one, that it focuses and highlights on our Latino communities, but two, it's intersectional and that it does a fabulous job of really showing how chapters 1 through 3 interact with each other, but specifically to some of the things that are really relevant to Latino communities, from the places that we work, like on the farm, and how that really interacts with extreme heat, to our health, you know, with air quality and pollution. And so that's really part of the uniqueness about this plan. Next slide, please. And so, as I mentioned, that we are on every 2 years, we have a plan to update the framework. And so in 2024, that's what we will be doing. And here's kind of a layout of what that process will look like. So I'll go through this fairly quickly. But in January, we'll start off with our kickoff workshops, just explaining some history and accomplishments we've had since the launch of LCJF, and then the update process itself. And in February, we'll kick off with dividing each chapter by month to go over it and get feedbacks and comments in. And we'll have monthly coalition calls. And for those of you who have endorsed the plan, and I'll talk about that a little bit on the next slide, you'll receive a monthly newsletter to get updates on. And then we'll also have opportunities for one-on-one with our partners to talk through some of that feedback and comments. And so for March, it's very similar. We'll dive into chapter 2 of the LCJF framework, and everything else is repeated. And then for April, we'll dive into chapter 3, but that's where we'll also start the synthesis process. So essentially taking all the feedback and comments that we've gotten since January and really putting it together into a draft. Then in May, we'll present that draft with all the integrations of feedback and comment, and have another comment period. And then we'll do a final review. And really, that is when we'll kick up our comms efforts to get everyone excited for the relaunch to happen in September. So through June through August, we'll really be working on physically updating the plan and the copyrights and the edits and things of that nature, all while still having our coalition calls and monthly newsletters and opportunities for final feedback and comment. So if you can go to the next slide, please. And so hopefully that was so compelling that you want to be involved now. So here are a few different ways that you can engage with our LCJF framework. And the first one is to read the plan, download it, read through it, and then endorse it. Endorsing it means that, you know, you believe in the advocacy around our Latino communities, and especially the climate crisis that they face and how it affects them. And so once you endorse the plan, you will also automatically get signed up for those monthly newsletters and updates that'll give you a monthly idea of what's going on with our update process. And then the second step that you could do is, after you endorse the plan, if you're like, I want to be more involved with this framework, another great thing to do is you can get added to our list server. And by getting added to our list server, you'll get not only updates on the process, but you'll be invited to those workshops and opportunities to submit comment and feedback in a more detailed kind of aspect, divided by those chapters that we talked about. And so if anyone is interested to get added to that list server, you can drop your email in the chat. Again, I'm sorry, but I will also drop my email in the chat. So if anyone has any questions, or just, you know, wants to take some time to meet on one-on-one on this framework, you can absolutely reach out. And then our third one is, if you want more information and want to learn more, anything about our framework, you can reach out to me and we can set up some time to chat. And also, so you can submit comments and feedback on your own about the framework once you've had some time to read through it and kind of go through it. So I will also drop my name in the chat, and looking forward to talk to all of you. I will hand it back to Irene.
Thank you so much, Jenny. And does anyone have any questions for Jenny in the next minute or so on the Latino climate justice framework, other than if you're interested in getting added to the listserv to get the updates, so that you're the email updates on all of the different workshops that were coming, so you can provide your feedback directly on the LCJF. Please put your information in the chat. Jenny will also put her email in there. You can always email her directly. And Paul, I see you have your hand raised.
if we're able to like organize audiences, could we get like have a presentation on the on this like, for example, in New York, there's an org called the Hispanic Coalition of New York. That could probably be a great resource to get this out to members of the Hispanic Latino community. I just want to know if it's possible if we could not try to set up like a GreenLatinos tour, but like anything that could really help get this information out to members of the community.
Yeah, Paul, I love that actually, and I'm going to steal that from you, a GreenLatinos Latino Climate Justice Framework Tour. Absolutely, yes, please. Shoot me an email and I'd be happy to, and that goes for everyone else on the call. If you would like me to present with your organization or your partners, I'd be happy to go into more detail about this plan, absolutely. Thanks, Paul. I also saw that Peggy had dropped a question, a great question about the workshops. And Peggy, they will be online. So it'll be an online workshop and you'll be able to go into breakout sessions that'll be led by some of our program experts within GreenLatinos and have a discussion on comments and feedback. Thanks for that question.
Great. Thank you. And Shirley has a question. Is climate reality an endorser? I believe so. Yes, thank you. And Citizens Climate Lobby, I'm not as familiar. I'm not quite sure, but we can check. And or Jenny, do you know? Yeah, we can.
I was going to say I'm not sure about Citizens, but yeah, absolutely, I can check.
Okay, great. And there was some great feedback also from Gatia and from other folks on including more intersections with Indigenous peoples' issues. And I think that there is a lot of intersections in LCJF that touch on sort of Indigenous rights issues, especially like land use and those kinds of things. But I think that this is a great opportunity, right? Like get in there, read the framework, let us know. I think there probably could be more direct call outs of those kinds of issues and explanations and problems and solutions laid out. So I think that this is a perfect issue to kind of bring up in terms of providing feedback. Okay, great. Thank you so much. And we'll just keep moving along and to close out. We'll close out just with the last little bit and then some member updates. Cumbia, next slide. So I just wanted to give an update on a couple of, if y'all, for those of you who have been attending these quarterly encuentros for the climate justice program at GreenLatinos regularly, you've heard kind of more in-depth presentations on the EPA methane rules and some other EPA rules. The EPA methane rule, we have an update now because it's coming towards the end of the finalization of the rule itself. And just to backtrack and give a little bit of context and an update, because we have new people in here all the time. This is an important rule because over 1 million, 1.5 million Latinos live within a half mile of existing oil and gas facilities, and oil and gas facilities emit methane emissions along with other co-pollutants that affect our public health, and especially the health of those that are living in close proximity to these industrial facilities. Latina children in the US are twice as likely as non-Latinos to die from asthma attacks in our country. And so right now the EPA is finalizing a rule that will cut methane emissions from the oil and gas sector, and they need our input to maximize the impact. So the final rule is going to come out. This has come after a couple of different iterations of draft rules last year and the previous year. And I will say that also, the previous slide still. And then I will say that this is also a long time coming. The methane rule for oil and gas was originally slated to come out during Obama's administration, and then it got rolled back during the Trump years. And so the Biden administration is finally bringing it back. And I will say it's stronger. It's a more stringent rule than even the Obama rule, as it should be, right? Because our planet is warming even more. We're not in the same time frame as we were during those years. And so there's opportunities to take action right now. If you are interested, once the rule comes out, which it is it's expected to come out around the end of November or beginning of December during COP28 climate negotiations in Dubai. We're expected that the Biden administration will announce it around then. We are putting together a press release. We would love to include member quotes and community quotes. So if you're interested in being a part of the press release and providing your own kind of thoughts and input into that press release, we want to have it be a community-wide kind of press statement, press release. Please let me know, and I'll put my email in the chat. There's a lot of like little action items that are coming out of this Encuentro, which is great, but I'll put my email in the chat. So just please reach out to me directly and let me know. And then specifically, if your community has been affected by oil and gas, reach out if you're interested in authoring an op-ed. We're also looking for, you know, to kind of share stories of folks directly impacted by oil and gas. And next slide, please. And then another rule that's coming out, also EPA, is the National Air Quality Standard, or NAAQS, soot PM 2.5 rule. So soot is an extremely dangerous pollutant that is small, and it can be inhaled. When it is inhaled, it lodges deep into our lungs and can cross into our bloodstream. So it has a lot of detrimental health impacts. Soot comes from many sources, including fossil fuel combustion and industrial processes. People living in majority Latino neighborhoods are dangerously exposed to higher soot than residents of majority white neighborhoods, contributing to overall higher rates of disease, cancer, and asthma. And right now, we are also, you know, after a lot of work, providing comments, and thank you for those who submitted comments through our portal or on your own directly to the EPA over the last several months on the need for a stringent PM 2.5 standard. We're expecting the administration to also come out with their final rule by the end of the year. We are urging the EPA to finalize a strong soot rule that is going to include 8 micrograms per cubic meter no later than the end of the year. So this is around our advocacy. And the same asks are as the previous rule for the methane, oil, and gas rule, where we want to do a community press statement. So again, I will provide my email information in here. If you don't already have it, please reach out to me directly if you're interested. And obviously this is all kind of prep. We're hoping just to get interest now so that we can hit the ground running when the rule actually comes out, and draft something and have the community provide input and quotes in there too. And then again, we're looking for an op-ed. So if you or someone you know has been affected in your community by soot pollution and has a personal story, which I feel like a lot of people do because industry surrounds many of us, please reach out to me as well for if you're interested in an op-ed. Okay, next slide. So with the last couple of minutes, I would love to hear from all of you. This is just kind of an open time for announcements from members. So something you're working on, a proposal for future GreenLatinos programming, or a topic that you would like to see covered in these encuentros. And then, of course, we'll also put in the chat how to become a GreenLatinos member. But yeah, this is kind of just an open time. So Cumbia, if you want to stop presenting, and we can just kind of leave it open. And then also, we want to take a group photo. So I think, Eder, you're going to cue us up for that. So if you can turn on your camera just for a second so we can all kind of have a group photo. And then just an opportunity for anyone to also go ahead and share. Eder or Cumbia, are y'all gonna let us know when you're ready for the group photo?
Yeah, I'll take the group photo, everyone. I'm gonna do a countdown, 3, 2, 1, and then I'm gonna go and take that photo. So 3, 2, 1, taking the photo now. Okay, one more photo. Give me 1 second. 3, 2, 1. Awesome. Thank you so much, everybody.
Thank y'all. Okay, so yeah, the last couple minutes, I see Ezequiel has his hand up. Go ahead.
Yes. Hi. Awesome presentation. I really love how we're getting united and working together. And that's why I wanted to join forces with you too. I'm part of USPTO, the US Patent and Trademark Office. And I'm happy to offer innovation training about JEDI, justice, equity, diversity, inclusion, and intellectual property. So if you're interested, just contact me. I left the flyer and my information. And I think some of the things that you mentioned in the presentation are super important. We develop solutions, and we can also generate wealth for our neighborhoods and patents for the students who most of the time are left behind. For example, I'm working with a guy from California, and they develop a cure for a sensor for diabetes, for our communities, helping in high school to get knowledge and understand, participating and give solutions for their issues they face, especially with the air, water quality. I'm happy to help you with that too. I'm an educator and I put my information there. And thanks again for the opportunity. Awesome presentation, and happy Thanksgiving, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that. And thanks for putting your information in the chat. Rudy, I see your hand up.
Yes, one of the things that we're very concerned with is what happened in New Mexico, northern New Mexico, where we had 600,000 acres of grazing land that was destroyed as a result of the wildfire. So we are concerned about the health of the folks that, you talk about suit, and that is a big problem in terms of where their health status is going to be as a result of those wildfires. So is that going to be part of the effort that's going to be done with regard to regulations?
So you're talking about which state specifically?
New Mexico, but it happens elsewhere, like in Oregon and
Yeah.
Washington State, the wildfires.
And in California, yeah.
In California, absolutely. So, and one of the things that concerns me is in terms of, it's good to have regulations. However, enforcement personnel, usually they fall very, very short. And you have the industry, which lobbies to ensure that there isn't sufficient enforcement staff as a part of the appropriations process.
Right. I don't know specifically what is happening in each state, but I do know that there was a proposal for specific federal, I don't know if it was regulation, but oversight guidance. So I think it was actually federal guidance from EPA on wildfire smoke and soot. So I can send that around as a resource. But yeah, I agree. The wildfires and the impacts on air quality are becoming increasingly severe. And we've seen a lot of that over the last few years. So I wanna turn it over to Catalina and have her have the last word, but Rudy, I'll send her on that resource that I have on the federal. Thank you. Catalina.
Hola, hi everyone. Yeah, I just want to echo that and just say that I would be interested. I've been thinking a lot about folks and family in Mexico and Acapulco still dealing with the impacts of the recent hurricane. And yeah, I think that would be something for us to engage in. And I think there's a lot of other things that we could engage in. I wanted to just hop on and share with you all, just bring together a resource that I've been working on for the last couple months and that I shared with everyone this week. And it's just like a primer. If anyone, if you are working for a local government or an agency or a community organization or a business, what we put together in this resource is just a primer of how California has been funding the clean energy transition. California is one of the largest economies in the world. They've had a little bit of a head start funding, developing, and communities have been really involved in designing these clean energy programs. So we put together a primer of just like the funding sources that California has used. If you want an understanding of like kind of who the players are, who the funding sources are. We also identified all the different funding mechanisms that California has used, like for example, rebates, competitive grants, certainly, and other mechanisms. And we also propose some ways of improving funding in California. And so there's something in here for everyone, whether you're in another state and I'm going to be involved in designing a program. It's just intended to be a primer. So I just wanted to highlight that for folks. We were talking this earlier about the Solar for All program. In California, there's existing programs. And there's a lot of factors that will determine like how well these federal initiatives work, like, net energy metering in your state, or, a lot of times people can't participate in programs because the condition of their house, their roof. So there's all these barriers that prevent people from participating. So we try to highlight some of those. I just wanted to share also, I'm working on translating all of this material because I think it's important for our comunidad to have that. In California, it's like 40% of us speak Spanish. So this needs to be accessible to them. So I'll definitely share when that's available, and feel free to reach out if you have any questions or to follow up. And I'll certainly share when everything's available in Spanish.
Thanks, Catalina. And did you drop the link for the resource already in the chat?
I believe I did, yes.
Okay, perfect. Then we'll capture it and we'll share it out in our follow-up email as well. Thank you so much. I know we're 4 minutes over. Appreciate everyone. Happy Thanksgiving. I hope everyone has such a wonderful week and that you get to do something nourishing for yourself on your time off. Okay, thanks everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.